guys, I'm Laura Vitale. On this episode of Laura in the Kitchen, I'm going to show you how to make a gorgeously easy and delicious like sausage stuffed pork loin, which I know it sounds like a lot, and it is. It's very rich, it's very delicious, and it's perfect for your Easter table or any special occasion. I love this recipe. The versatility is incredible. I am showing you what I feel like are the basic ingredients that go really, really well together, but by all means, feel free to be as creative as you want to be. I'm using a pork loin. It's lean, it's delicious, everyone seems to love it. However, if you can find a boneless skin on like shoulder, pork shoulder, you could roast that. I love it. It's definitely richer in flavor. You have to cook it a bit longer. You want it to reach about 205 or slightly over, whereas a pork tenderloin or a pork loin like I'm using today, I like to cook it to about 150 and it's perfectly juicy every single time. Now, I've got about a 4.5 pounder here. I don't really need to trim a lot off because it's got a nice thin layer of fat, which I want to keep because otherwise it's just way too lean. And here's how you butterfly it. This is how I do it anyway. By no means am I perfect at this, but instead of slicing it halfway down, you're gonna slice it in thirds. So you're gonna go to the top third like that. Don't go all the way through. And it just takes a bit to maneuver because it is a really big piece of meat. You're gonna go about, you want a nice thin layer of the top, and I'll show you why in just a minute. So you open it up like a book. You can see this side's much thinner than this side. So now over here, you're gonna go under and you're gonna split that in half and you're gonna open it up like a book. I find it easier to work with one side at a time, but really, what I really love, and I don't have around here, is my little, very sharp paring knife to do this with. But it works. You're just gonna go ahead and get this open. Like I said, you're kind of gonna get it open like a book, and it does not really matter if it's not 100% perfect because you're gonna pound it out anyway, and you just want it to be nice and even when you go to roll it, because that's really the important part. Okay, so once you have that third layer all sort of opened up like so, you're gonna cover it with plastic wrap. I'm doing this on my wood board, but it is layered on both sides with plastic wrap. You're gonna take your meat mallet and you're gonna pound it a little bit so that it's thinner, it's easier to stuff, easier to roll. Okay, good enough. You can see it's pretty much even all the way. I don't know if you can really tell, but pretty much even all the way. I'm gonna go ahead and just move it to the side because I do need my board. Now, because I am hungry and I need to move quickly, don't have my grater here, so hold that thought. So what I have in the skillet is a mixture of hot sausage and sweet pork. Cooked it because I wanted to render its fat. I'm gonna go ahead and pop it in a food processor because I want that to be extremely finely chopped. Now I know what you're saying, Laura, I really don't want to add, you know, sausage into the thing, and it's a lot, it's really rich. You don't have to. Do a breading stuffing. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna add bread, I'm gonna add cheese, I'm gonna add herbs and garlic. You can just build on that. You can just do an all bread and herb stuffing, which is phenomenal. You could add pancetta instead. You could add raisins. You could add dried fruit, and it would be fantastic. I'm just gonna go ahead, well, there we go. I want that really finely chopped. Your sausage is well crumbled. Through the same food processor. This is just a couple of hoagie rolls. They're stale. That end is a little bit tough. I'm gonna add a couple of them in here. You want a total of about 8 ounces if you were to weigh it. So, but a half a pound of Italian bread. If you are using a sourdough or something where the crust is super, super, super thick, then I may just want you to remove the crust. But I'm just gonna go ahead and do the same thing. This is sort of like the breading portion, right? Think of stuffing, think of Thanksgiving stuffing. Same thing. Let's see. Yeah, that's good enough. Beautiful. Add that in. Okay, now that's like the bulk, right? Now you're gonna go ahead and take a few cloves of garlic. I know that you could add garlic to cooking sausage. For some reason, I just like when you add the garlic to the mixture when it's raw. I think you get such a better flavor, more, more pronounced flavor. A stem of celery. Now, listen, I might have had a lot of coffee today, but it could not have been that strong. Rosemary. I'm just gonna take, I'm actually gonna use 2. Let's just go ahead and use 2. Okay, and then we're gonna do a handful of parsley, but first, I wanna go ahead and get my garlic peeled, smashed, peeled, all the goods. So we've got parsley, rosemary, garlic, chopped up, added in. I'm not adding any salt to that because I'm gonna salt the pork itself, and the sausage is very salty. I went ahead and added some toasted pine nuts. Lovely texture, beautiful nutty flavor. Just make sure you go ahead and toast them first to really bloom their oils and flavor. Lots of Parmigiano. You could also add pecorino, and I would prefer it. Not gonna lie to you, I would prefer it. Was I gonna make an extra stop at the grocery store this morning? No, because I forgot. But I would really prefer some pecorino because it's got really sharp flavor. And I think I would really like, I know I would because I made it before without parm, and I did pecorino and it was fantastic. So there's that. So there is your cheese, your bread, your sausage. I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of vino. If you don't want to add any dry white wine, which I'm using some Pinot Grigio, you don't have to. You can go ahead and just leave it out completely and add some chicken stock, which I'm going to, but you can add all stock if you want to. Again, think of what we are making as like you're making the stuffing, right? It's really no different. It's just so delicious. You want this to be nice and moistened, but kind of hold together. So that's looking pretty fantastic. Go ahead and season the inside of your pork well, because we didn't add any salt to the stuffing, but I do want it to be seasoned well. Black pepper. I'm gonna go ahead and use my hands for this because I just feel like it's the easiest way. Oh yeah, that is good stuffing. It's so good. You know what I did with the leftovers? And you have to trust me on this. I know I'm gonna sound like a crazy person, but I took leftovers, and if you follow me on Instagram, you already know because you saw it. I took leftovers, sliced it really, really thinly, like shaved it pretty much, and I made like a gravy with the leftover sauce and everything that I had made for the roast. And I made hot roast pork sandwiches with shell provolone and broccoli rabe. Let me tell you something. I could open up a shop because they were so good. Oh my goodness, okay? Listen, even I was shocked at myself. That's how good it was. Okay, that looks phenomenal. Look how good that looks. Beautiful. And the stuffing really helps keep the pork nice and moist. Okay, I want to move some things around. Let me go wash my hands really quickly because I hate to work with messy hands. I'm turning it over to the side just because it's easier for me to roll. I've got some kitchen twine here. You want to start rolling. You want the top to be where the fat cap is, right? Because you want that to roast and render and do all kinds of magical things. And you're just going to literally roll this like a jelly roll. Right? And if some of the filling spills out, trust me, it is fine. It is fine. And if some of it kind of tears open a little bit at the bottom, trust me, it is fine. Okay? I'm going to leave it like that just for a second. because I find it easier to, I'm leaving it to the side because I find it easier to lay out all of my twine before I do pretty much anything else. Okay. Tie some kitchen twine all around, like that. You kind of want to keep everything in place, keep its shape, keep the filling from rolling out. It's just a good practice. Okay? It's a little bit of a messy job, but you know, it is very worth it. You're going to have to trust me on that. Go. Then we have one more piece I'm going to put in the very front here. Beautiful. Again, keeps the shape, keeps everything together. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I just want to, you know, I don't function well in a messy cooking environment, but when you're making something like this, it's kind of like making Thanksgiving dinner, right? You know, when you are cooking for Thanksgiving, you know it is a disaster in your kitchen. I do try to keep things looking smooth and nice and all that jazz, but you know, I don't know why that's in here because I don't need that. I don't even put this over a wire rack or anything. I plunk it right in here. I take all of the tops of the string because I have to cut them off anyway. I take all of those and I just do it like so. Like I said, I don't put anything alongside. I don't need to. However, I am going to take a head of garlic in about, because this is going to take about an hour or so to roast. I'm going to take a head of garlic. I like to dry the top. Salt liberally to top, the sides, roll it around to season underneath. And then pepper, same thing, roll it around to season the underneath. Take some chicken stock. What I was saying was, this is going to take a bit to cook, but in a bit, I'm going to take a head of garlic and I'm going to throw it in there to roast alongside because we're going to want that later for the sauce. A little bit of white wine. I've got some rosemary tucked under there. You know me, I am a fan of the trusty probe. I like my meat cooked perfectly. I'm going to set this at 150, which is perfectly safe for a pork loin. So I'm going to go ahead and just set my temperature to 150. And when it's there, it'll be done. And then we will let it rest and we'll make our sauce to go with. That's it. 400 degrees. In she goes. Whoa! Okay. Pork was in the oven. It was actually in the oven about an hour. Now remember, I told you I like to cook mine to the internal temperature of about 150. Once it cools and sets for half an hour before slicing, it will carry over cook to about 160. To me, that is perfect. If I were to take that out at 165, by the time you sit down to eat it, it'll be 180 and it is going to be dry as a bone. However, if we were doing this with a boneless shoulder, cook it to about 205 to 215 because it's a different cut of meat, so it's going to need all that time to really break down and get tender. Think of it like when you cook a pulled pork or any kind of recipe that calls for a shoulder. Anyway, to make the sauce is really simple. I took a head of garlic and I roasted it alongside the pork loin until it's lovely and tender and delicious. And I'm going to add it to my skillet here with some olive oil. Now you have to give me a second. It's very hot. I'm just going to squeeze it out. Woo, that's hot. I'm trying to squeeze it with my hand, but I'm going to need a mopine. That's going to give you really yummy, oh my word, rich garlic flavor. I'll take the peel out. Let me get a small little knife to get the rest out. So you want all that really delicious sweetness. There we go. a little dried oregano, dried basil situation. Now to this, I'm gonna add a bit of white wine. If you don't want to use it, leave it out. Let that just sort of reduce for a minute. Now what I have in here, in my fat separator, is the juices from the pork. I'm gonna go ahead and add them in. Don't add the fat, just add the bottom, which is why I put it in a fat separator, because I don't want that. Because that, you can sort of still see where there's like the good juices at the bottom, and then the fat sort of rises to the top. We don't want the fat. We don't want a really greasy, situation. Nobody wants that. Crank that up. I'm gonna add a bit more chicken stock here, just because I feel like we need it for the amount of pork that we are gonna be serving. And I'm gonna just bring that to a boil and let it reduce by about half. Sauce looks great. I'm gonna go ahead and add a cornstarch slurry, which is just some cornstarch and some water. Just mix it together. It will thicken that sauce beautifully. While that happens, we can go ahead and start carving the roast. Get that out of the way. Take some kitchen scissors. You gotta cut off that twine. That's important. Ooh, I left one on. Look at that. Now I want you to see something. I want you to see how beautiful the fat, you know, that little layer of fat cap is now, I'm trying to see if you can hear it, is now crispy and gorgeous. Every single oven is different. I have 3 ovens in my house. They cook differently. If I were cooking this not in this oven, but in a different oven, I would have to turn the broiler on for the last couple of minutes to get that really gorgeous deep crust. They just cook differently. So if you are at the 1 hour mark and you feel like your top is not looking like this, turn the broiler on for a couple minutes and it will get there. Like I said, every oven is different. It's nearly impossible sometimes for me to give a correct estimate of how long something takes to cook, because I test them. I'm going to go over here because that one's a cook's treat, but I want you to see how juicy it is. Can you see right there? Look at the juiciness. You see that? I really hope you can see it. It is absolutely perfectly cooked. It is such a pleasure to eat. It really is not difficult to make at all, especially when it comes to something like a stuffed roast. It's one of the easiest, I think, to pull off. It is such a celebration. Everyone loves it. Leftovers are so phenomenal, whether you make hot roast pork or whatever. You can make whatever you want. Everyone loves it. You can make a hash, make whatever you want. This is mine. Cook's treat. You always have to have one of those. When I do go to serve this, I am going to go ahead and put some parsley. But look at this. You have to do a bit more fresh rosemary around. And I'm going to decorate this really nice with fresh herbs and maybe some garlic. You have to take some of this roasted garlic sauce, pour it all over, let it drink it up. I'm just going to pretend I'm going to take that to the table, which I really am. But now just pretend that this is, oh, I just need that crust. I need that crispy crust in that sauce with a little bit of the stuffing on top. It is beyond delicious. The stuffing keeps everything flavorful and moist. 10 out of 10. Go to loinkitchen.com for the written recipe. Perfect for your Easter table. I really hope you enjoy spending time with me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.